Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on another video of mine. As always, it is very much appreciated. If you're new here, hi there and welcome. My name is Rosie. I love doing natural hair videos. My returning queens, thank you so much for joining me once again. So for today's video, I wanted to speak more about length retention and just offer you some really valuable tips that have helped me along my natural hair journey throughout the last 8 years. I've been getting a lot of questions about length retention, what you should be doing, what are some of the best practices. So I thought I would go ahead and make a video and just share with you guys my personal experience and share with you my personal tips that really have helped me in regards to retaining length, throughout these last 8 years. I have been documenting my natural hair journey throughout these last 8 years, and I feel like I have really learned what it is and what approach I should be taking when it comes to length retention. So that will be today's video. Before we get started, please make sure that you are subscribed to my channel. That way you're always notified when I upload a new video. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So when it comes to length retention, just thinking about my own personal journey and how, I have been consistent throughout all these years, I would say the first thing would be to be intentional with scheduling your wash day. You really have to be very intentional when it comes to wash day and when you're going to be washing your hair. Don't just randomly decide, well, today is the day that I have time to wash my hair. No, be consistent with picking a day and choosing that day to wash your hair and just consistently doing it over and over again instead of just randomly choosing a day to wash your hair, because I think it just really better prepares you when it comes to wash day and what it is that you're going to be doing with your hair. And also I personally feel like that approach really leads to you being disciplined with showing up every time for wash day and being consistent when it comes to washing your hair. Personally for me, when I started my natural hair journey, I used to go to the salon to wash my hair. And once I decided that I wasn't going to be doing that anymore, I used the calendar that I have on my phone, and I stated every Sunday I'm going to wash my hair. And, I usually would start in the morning, and, it'd take me a couple of hours. It wouldn't really take me that much, at the beginning, because, I was in the phase of transitioning, but I was consistent with showing up for my hair every single Sunday and washing it. And, after doing it for so long and now for so many years, the habit it's a natural thing for me. You know what I mean? I know that come Sunday, it's wash day for me, and I'm just very consistent with it. So that's one thing that I would tell you, is just be consistent with scheduling your wash days and following through. Use the calendar that you have on your phone, or buy a calendar book, whichever approach you feel is better, but set what day you're going to wash your hair and just show up for your hair. And I'm telling you, doing that over and over and over again, you're just really going to get into that habit of knowing that, oh, it's Sunday or it's Monday or whatever day it is that you choose, and show up to washing your hair. Another tip when it comes to length retention, I would say it's not only choosing a day that you're going to wash your hair, but you also have to decide, are you going to be washing your hair on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, or a week and a half, or, you really have to think about that. And personally, for me, especially where I am in my natural hair journey, I have to wash my hair every week. I can't go every 2 weeks. I've tried that approach and it just doesn't work for me. I would say you should be washing your hair at least every 7 to 10 days. Because personally for me, when I wash my hair on a weekly basis, or at least every 7 to 10 days, wash day honestly is not this long process for me, because my hair is not dried out. I'm not dealing with so much tangles. It's a smooth wash day for me. I tried washing my hair every 2 weeks, and I noticed that when I took that approach, wash day was so much longer. I dealt with so much more tangles. My ends were a little bit more drier than normal. And it just, it just made wash day a longer process. So I learned for me that, you know what, I can't wash my hair every 2 weeks. It does sound nice, but it just doesn't work for me. So, once you stick to a wash day schedule, you have to decide, am I doing this on a weekly basis? Am I showing up every 9 to 10 days? Does, maybe washing your hair every 2 weeks is going to work? I can't really tell you what's the best approach. You really just have to try every avenue and see what works best for your hair. And your hair will definitely tell you, And for me, I noticed that when I was washing my hair, every 7 to 10 days, wash day is not a long process. My hair is not dried out. It's easy for me to detangle, and I can get through wash day, much smoother than if I waited 2 weeks. So that's another thing that I would tell you to think about. Are you going to be washing your hair weekly, every 7 to 10 days, every 2 weeks? I personally would not extend wash day to every 3 weeks or once a month. I don't really think that you're going to get the results that you want to get with your hair if you wait so long with wash day. And also, I think it's good to just kind of get into that motion of washing your hair on a consistent basis. And I think every week, or at least every 7 to 10 days, is the best approach. Another tip that I would share that I think is really, really, well, has been beneficial for me in my natural hair journey is I don't skip pre-pooing on wash day. I think that skipping this step can lead to a lot of breakage and even more tangles. Personally, for me, I learned early on that I do need to pre-poo my hair, and, when it comes to pre-pooing your hair, you can use a conditioner that has a lot of slip, or you can, I like to use the African Pride pre-shampoo. That's like probably my favorite to use, but I like to add moisture to my hair before I go in and shampoo. I think this approach is really crucial because adding that moisture to your hair before you go in and shampoo, it's really going to help sort of create a balance in regards for your hair not being so dried out. And because when your hair is dried out, and you just jump in the shower and you just jump in with a shampoo, after rinsing it, your hair is going to feel a little bit dry depending on the shampoo that you use. And you're going to deal with more tangles, especially because it's been, 7, 8, 9+ days since your last wash day. You know what I mean? So I really think that using a pre-shampoo to help add moisture to the hair, help you detangle so you can start removing some of that, some of that shed hair. When you're going to shampoo, you're going to see that your hair is not going to be as tangled, and overall it's just going to make wash day that much easier. And because your wash day is going to be that much easier, because you're not going to be, having to be pulling your hair or, having to detangle more, which can lead to breakage and stuff like that, doing a pre-poo is very, very beneficial. That moisture is really going to help make wash day a lot smoother for you. And also it's going to, minimize the tangles and, the possible breakage. You know what I mean? Because it's something that happens, but the goal is to just minimize it as much as possible. And I personally feel like doing a pre-pooing on wash day can really help you with length retention. And I feel like for me, that's something that I have always been doing. I have been pre-pooing my hair, especially when I was transitioning to natural. I was dealing with the two texture. So dealing with the two texture when I was transitioning was very tough. It was a challenge, but pre-pooing helped make it better because having that slipped in my hair, I was able to, separate my hair a bit easier, especially with the two texture. It was just an easier process for me, and it made wash day a lot better. And after, I did the big chop, I still kept with doing my pre-poos on wash day, because at the end of the day, I learned that having that moisture in my hair made a huge difference in my overall wash day routine. Because I do remember I do remember that there was a time where, I was like, you know what, do I really need to do this step? This is just adding an extra, 30, 45 minutes into my wash day routine. I was like, you know what, let me go ahead, let me take this routine out. Let me see if, I can still, have a successful wash day. And, from, trying that out, I learned that no, I didn't have a successful wash day. I had more tangles because I went in with a shampoo and I didn't pre-detangle. So now I'm in the shower. I have to detangle a lot more because I didn't pre-poo. It's taking me longer. My back hurts now. So I learned from then. I was like, you know what? Yes, this is another step, but this is a very important step in my wash day. So from then on, I was like, yeah, I'm going to always have to pre-poo my hair on wash day. And I feel like overall, it's been a really good thing for my hair. I feel like, I'm always gentle with my hair when it comes to wash day, but doing a pre-poo has definitely been key in regards to length retention. So that's definitely something that I would recommend for you, to really consider and incorporate in your journey and your wash day routine. Try it out and really document and see how beneficial, it can be, for your natural hair journey. Another tip when it comes to length retention, I would say, is you don't want to be manipulating your hair too much when it comes to hairstyles. You don't want to be changing hairstyles on a consistent basis, especially on a daily basis. I definitely do not recommend that. Personally, for me, I'm lazy when it comes to hairstyles. I say that I'm not really a hairstyle person. I love putting my hair either in a bun, doing a half up, half down, doing twists. I like to do twists a lot during the winter time as a protective style, or doing a wash and go. I love doing wash and goes, but that's really all the hairstyles that I really do. As a protective style, for me, something that's simple and easy is just putting my hair in a bun, moisturizing my hair, tucking my ends away, giving them a bit of a break. So when you are doing so many hairstyles, you're changing it, you're putting it up, you're putting it down, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're changing this, you're adding hair, you're taking out. When you're doing so much of that, it's really not good for your hair, because you're over manipulating it, and eventually, this approach is what's going to lead for you. It's what's going to lead to breakage, to be honest. Constantly brushing it, detangling it, separating the hair. You don't want to be over manipulating your hair that way. It's just not good. And honestly, this is what's going to prevent you from, retaining length. You want to take a simple approach when it comes to hairstyles. That's, to be honest with you, that's the best advice I can give you. I can understand, you want to switch things up, here and there, but it's not something that you want to do on a consistent basis. You don't want to do it very often. And personally, to me, I have learned throughout the years that, you want to keep things simple. You don't want to do too much, because doing too much really is going to, it's really going to interfere with your length retention for sure. So, decide what hairstyles you can do on your own that don't require so much manipulation, and then just, try those out, and then just kind of just take it from there. So for me, I love doing buns. I love doing buns. That's like my favorite. I just think it's simple. It's something that I can do on my own. I can tuck my hair away and I can still look cute. So I can understand that, having the same hairstyle can get boring. But for me, I just don't really look at it that way. I just look at it as, this is the style that I'm using to protect my hair, to retain length. And yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm not someone that needs to be changing my hair all the time and switching it up and stuff like that. That's just my preference. I like to keep things simple, but my advice to you is to really minimize, over manipulating your hair, because that really does affect with your length retention. Another tip when it comes to length retention that I feel is really, really crucial is on wash day, you should be deep conditioning. You should not be skipping this step. Deep conditioning is a must, especially with heat, because you definitely want to you want to deep condition at least for 30 minutes, and you want to use heat because the heat is going to help penetrate the deep conditioner deeper into your strands, and overall is going to be beneficial for the health of your hair. But I would say do not skip deep conditioning. It's such an important step. And sometimes, I do see videos of people's wash days, and they're feeling lazy and they're like, oh, I'm going to skip deep conditioning this week. It's no. If you're going to wash your hair, follow through with every step that you need to do, but deep conditioning is definitely a must. I remember when I started my natural hair journey. Well, even before I started my natural hair journey, I was not big on deep conditioning. That's something that I did sometimes in the salon, when I would go to the salon to do my hair, but deep conditioning wasn't a normal routine in my wash day routine when I would wash my hair before going natural. So now when I look back at pictures of how my hair looked before going natural, I understand now why my hair looked the way it did. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't feeding it's the nutrients that it needed for it to continue to, thrive and grow. It wasn't until I went natural that I started deep conditioning. And when I got in the habit of deep conditioning, every wash day, I saw the benefits of deep conditioning. So now it's just something that is a staple in my routine. I do not skip deep conditioning on wash day. And I feel like throughout the last 8 years, I have seen a lot of growth in my hair. This is the longest my hair has ever been. And I feel like a huge part of it has been because of deep conditioning. So I really encourage you on wash day, please do not skip this step. Take the time to deep condition. And once you apply the deep conditioner, don't just leave it in for 5 minutes. That's not going to do anything. Leave that deep conditioner in for 30 minutes minimum. That's really all you need, 30 minutes, and sit under a dryer. If you can't sit under a dryer, do the heat caps where you can like pop it in the microwave for like 2-3 minutes and then let it sit in your hair for 30 minutes. But, I sit under a dryer. And I sit under a dryer for 30 minutes, let that deep conditioner really penetrate into your strands. And I know for me, when I deep condition and I rinse out the deep conditioner, I feel such a difference. I can see the difference in my hair. My hair feels so soft. It feels so moisturized. It feels healthy. It smells good. But you can really tell that my hair really enjoyed it. And just stay in that routine of deep conditioning every time you wash your hair, and you're going to see huge benefits from it because it really makes a huge difference. But you got to stay consistent with it. You got to deep condition every wash day. Another tip that I would encourage you to do on wash day is you got to work in small sections. Not only do you got to work in small sections because you really have to be mindful of, how much hair you're going to be, detangling, but you also want to incorporate finger detangling as well. You want to try to see if you can remove the shed hair with your fingers. And if you feel like, this is the best that you can do, then you can go in with a brush. I personally like to use the Tangle Teaser brush. That's like my favorite brush to use. But working in small section, making sure that each section has enough slip before you go in with your fingers and the brush, I think is also key for length retention because, you're not ripping through your hair, and also you're being mindful of how you're detangling, which overall is going to help you, with length retention. It's going to minimize breakage. But that's one thing that I would tell you for wash day is, don't rush through detangling. You have to take your time because when you're rushing through detangling, best believe you're going to deal with breakage when you rush through it. There's just no way about it. You have to take your time. You got to work in small sections, incorporate finger detangling. And, if you feel like this is the best that you can do with finger detangling, Then as a last step, go in with a brush or a white tooth comb, which I love to use to remove any shed hair that your fingers were not able to take it out. But I think that's a really good approach to take, because at the end of the day, you really want to be mindful with how you're caring for your hair, especially on wash day when it comes to detangling. My next tip when it comes to length retention is you have to think about, just like you have a wash day routine, you also should have a moisturizing routine for your hair throughout the week. That's also important. You always have to think about, your previous wash day. Did you use light products to style your hair, or did you use thick creams? It's not just about, washing your hair, styling your hair, and then leaving your hair alone until the next wash day. No, you have to be checking in with your hair. I'm not saying that you have to check in with your hair every day. I do, but that's just, I'm just kind of like in that habit. I've been in that habit for like 8 years now. But I do wrap my hair at night. So yes, I'm gonna check in with my hair. I'm gonna touch my hair, see how my hair feels. Does it feel a little bit dry? Especially, it's summertime right now, so the humid here, it's been wild. So I do have to moisturize a lot more throughout the week in the summertime because of the heat. You know what I mean? If I don't, my hair is going to get super frizzy. It's going to get super dry, especially during the ends. And then come wash day, it's going to be a longer process for me because I didn't moisturize my hair throughout the week. So that's one thing that I would encourage you to really do, is to check in with your hair, see how your hair feels, especially by day 3. By day 3, you definitely should be checking in with your hair and seeing, hey, how does my hair feels by day 3 or even day 4? Does it feel a little dry? Is it a little bit frizzy? Can it use a nice refresher? And if it's feeling dry, go ahead and moisturize. One thing that I will say is that when I do moisturize my hair throughout the week, I like to use the same products that I use to style my hair. So let's say, for example, I did a wash and go. So by day 3, especially in the summer right now with the heat, if it's feeling a little bit dry, I'll go in with either the leave-in conditioner, to just, give my hair a nice refresh. Or if it's maybe like day 5 or day 6, I'll go in with a cream that I use, especially if, again, if I did a wash and go, to just, moisturize my hair. For me, throughout the years, I've learned that moisturizing my hair throughout the week helps my upcoming wash day go by so much better, because my hair is not dried out. I did not let my hair get dry out. So I'm not really dealing with a lot of tangles. And if there is a tangle, you know what I mean, adding that Prepoo, doing a little bit of finger detangling, that tangle is gonna, separate very quickly, or, smoothly. But what I'm saying is, you have to check in with your hair throughout the week. That's something that you really want to incorporate, especially if you're serious about length retention. You cannot go throughout the entire week or until your next wash day for your hair to have moisture. By day 3, day 4, check in with your hair, feel your hair, see how it's doing. If it's feeling dry, use a leave-in conditioner or use a cream, whatever you prefer, that's going to help add that moisture. And I'm telling you, you're going to start noticing that when you moisturize your hair throughout the week and then you're washing your hair, when you're washing your hair, you're going to notice, you're like, hey, wash day is not so bad because I took the time to moisturize my hair throughout the week. So definitely think about that approach, incorporate it. I usually tell you guys, incorporate it, but also document it. So you can always go back and you can review your notes and you can see what you wrote. You can outline, how your hair feels. You can outline the benefits of it, and you can, start documenting the change that you're seeing in your hair. And if it's working, continue, because I know that me taking that approach is how I've been able to retain this much length throughout the last 8 years. Now, my last tip when it comes to length retention is to get regular trims. Now, I do know that trimming your hair, in the natural world, it looks different for everybody. Some people like to trim their hair in its curly state. That's me. You have others who like to straighten their hair and then, trim it. So there's really no wrong way when it comes to trimming. It just really depends what approach feels best for you, because that's key. What feels good for you, that should always be your number one priority. I definitely understand that some people prefer to blow out their hair or straighten their hair so they can better assess their ends. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Personally, for me, when it comes to trimming my hair, I don't have any desire to straighten my hair ever again. So I don't like the approach of having to straighten my hair to trim my hair, because if I were to take that approach, then I'm going to want my hair curly right after I trim it. And because I never plan on wearing my hair straight again, I trim my hair in its curly state. I don't go to a professional, but I'm also not a professional, but I have been taking care of my hair for the last 8 years. So I only feel comfortable with trimming my hair myself. And because I don't over manipulate my hair, I'm not doing, too many hairstyles. I'm not changing up my hair. I'm not doing a lot with my hair. I don't really feel like I have to trim so much. However, I am following a trimming schedule. I'm trimming my hair every 6 months, so twice a year, and just to keep my ends looking healthy. But I would encourage you to find the right approach that you want to take when it comes to trimming your hair, whether that's you doing it yourself or you finding someone that you really trust and feel confident with trimming your hair, and then continue with that. Because having your ends trimmed definitely helps you, with length retention. You definitely want to cut off the dead ends that are sort of like keeping your hair from really flourishing. But having a schedule with when it comes to trimming is very important. Overall, the goal is figuring out what approach is going to best work for you and what you feel most comfortable with. So I know for me, I feel comfortable doing it myself. You may prefer to either do it yourself or find a stylist, but the goal is to find out what you feel most comfortable with. Well, those are my tips. I really wanted to just focus on things that I felt like were really, really important. And when I really sat down to outline what it is that I wanted to talk about in this video, these are the steps that I really felt like were most important. And I really, reflected on my own natural journey. And I really was like, yeah, these steps is how I've been able to retain the length that I have today. So I really hope that you found this video beneficial. I hope that it was helpful. Please let me know in the comments what are some tips that you feel like have helped you in your natural hair journey. I would definitely love to hear from you. But yes, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching it to the very end. I definitely do appreciate it. Make sure that you like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. And of course, I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.